We have a nice male kangaroo out there, 60 to 95 kilograms. That is the maximum. I just wanted to check this one as well. But now that he is stopped. Hello and welcome back to the Hunter Classic. So today we're here on Bushrangers Run because I needed yet another excuse to hunt with the 6.5 Panther and also to talk a bit about the upcoming reserve. So I thought it only made sense to come here to Bushrangers Run, our current only Australian map, but as we now know, the new map is going to be a tropical Australian map, so that's going to be quite interesting to see. So we'll take out this red fox, and then we can start talking about what we're going to be seeing, hopefully on the new reserve. We'll just pick him up and I'll show you where we're going to go as we hunt on our current Australian map while kind of talking about the new map. And I'm also going to be relying a bit on those of you that have visited the area or live in the area of the new reserve to help fill in any gaps that I leave or possibly correct me if some of the research that I've done ends up not being true. So our red fox is going to be a 16.5 scoring female. Not a bad start, so we spawned just at this tent, and I'm going to head east, just going up through here and then just kind of making a loop back to the west into the more arid part of Bushrangers Run, and hopefully we'll be able to get a good mix of the species here. So starting off with the environment, I've seen a fair amount of different pictures. Some of them are reasonably similar to the area we're in right now, except with a bit more grass, not so barren ground. I've also seen... Oh, I think we were about to get charged there. I've also seen some pictures that are kind of similar to like an African plain with like large trees that are fairly sparse, very much spread out. And I've also seen pretty much what is a rainforest. So what I'm most curious is, are we going to see one of those regions as the entire map? Or are we going to see multiple of those regions in different areas throughout the map? And by the way, once again, if you guys are from the area and can fill in anything else, maybe there's other type of environment that I missed, or if maybe the one that's similar to Bushrangers Run technically wouldn't count as tropical Australia, that I don't know. It's kind of difficult to say whether that's going to be the case or not, but it did look a lot less barren than Bushrangers Run, so I think it definitely could be included in the category. But yeah, let me know if I'm missing anything or if you have anything that I have wrong here. So I think the environment I'd like to see most is the kind of African plains looking environment that I saw. I think that would be the most fun to hunt in. Ironically, we're looking at feral goats that have kind of kudu looking antlers, which are of course an African game species, so that kind of fit right into what I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I think that would be the most fun to hunt. But of course the rainforest is so unique. I definitely hope we're going to see kind of a mix of those different areas that I've seen from my bit of research that I've been able to do about the tropical Australian area. But we're going to try to take out this feral goat. I just noticed that one there. Wanted to make sure it wasn't big. We might actually try to get a couple here. Possibly if I can get a shot. Wow, there were more than I thought. I think we shot too high on that one. That should take that one down. I'm actually going to mark that area somewhere up in there. But yeah, the area I most would want to hunt is kind of that African plains where it's wide open, very kind of grassy terrain, large trees that are few and far between, and watering holes. I think that'd be pretty cool. Again, from what I've seen, that seems to line up with the kind of African Australian tropical region. But if that is not the case, please let me know so I'm not getting my hopes up for the wrong thing, for one thing, and also so everybody in the comments and everybody viewing knows that that is not the case. If you do correct me on anything, I'll pin that to the top. So if anybody is curious as to how accurate this information is, you can check the comments. Anything that I've been correct on, I'll try to pin to the top. So hopefully you guys can see that as easily as possible. But we'll grab our goat and hopefully not have too much trouble tracking the other one. This is actually a decent size spiral horned feral goat, 130. I think the biggest I've ever had was 170. But yeah, after the research I've done, I'm definitely looking forward to getting to hunt the tropical Australian reserve. We have no idea what the timetable for the release is as of right now, but I think the fact that we now know what the reserve's going to be, that definitely means that we're going to see it a lot sooner than I thought, because when they initially said we're working on a new reserve, I thought we were looking at months until the release, and we still could be, but it's definitely possible that it'll be in the near future. So we ended up getting another kind of spiral horned feral goat, scoring 96, and we will move on. So looking up some of the tropical Australian game, one of the animals that stood out most is buffalo, and from the images I saw, they are kind of similar to the Cape buffalo of Africa, but not exactly similar. There's not the same subspecies from what I could tell. There's another species called bantang, if I'm pronouncing that right, which kind of looked very similar to cattle, but not, again, exactly the same. So those are going to be interesting potential candidates to be on the reserve. There's also wild boar, which of course we have. I would not be surprised to see wild boar being on the new reserve, because we do tend to get at least one species from old maps every time we get a new map released. We also have dingo, which if you don't know what that is, that's kind of like an African dog, but evidently an Australian dog as well. I wouldn't be too surprised to see that, depending on the type of terrain we get. I think they kind of have some of the behavior and stuff down with coyotes, red fox, and wolves, so we might see those because we have some similar animals in the game already. Bobcats as well might have similar behavior. Wild oxen's another one. I think maybe the most likely one for everyone to expect is the giant saltwater crocodile. I would not be too surprised to see that. The community has asked for crocodile or alligator in Rougarou Bayou for years, so it's definitely possible to see that. And waterfowl, multiple different species. We could probably see those as well for waterfowl. New waterfowl, that is, for a long time, so we might see some new waterfowl in the game as well. So some of the deer species in Australia, one of the deer species asked for most when we were looking at a potential new species for this map that ended up being feral goat was the axis deer. I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw axis deer added to a new reserve. Did we actually miss that kangaroo? Okay, we didn't. It must have went down over there. We also have hog deer, which are evidently similar to axis deer. Sandbar deer, which was my personal suggestion for Bushrangers Run. I do remember looking up some of the habitat for them specifically because we had to kind of present an argument for the species that we were suggesting on the forums. And I do remember like trees and water, I believe, being a good part of their habitat. That could be wrong, but just from what I'm seeming to recall about them, that I believe was the case. So I think they could fit in. Rusa deer, I may be pronouncing that wrong. They are evidently similar to the sandbar deer, but smaller. Fallow deer, which I would actually be quite surprised if we don't see fallow deer added to the new reserve. We have the animal concept in the Hunter Call of the Wild. We've asked for them as well here in the Hunter community to be added to like Hirschfelden and such. So we might very well see fallow deer and of course red deer. If we don't see wild boar, I definitely expect to see red deer because, as I said, we do tend to get at least one species from the old maps when we get a new one. Actually, a hip bone shot on this female kangaroo. So that is all the species I was able to find in my research, but if you guys have any that you'd like to add from your own personal research or your own personal knowledge from living there, visiting there, or just knowing about the area, leave them in the comments below. I'm going to be reading them just to find out what else we could see on the new reserve. And also, once again, if anything I said was incorrect, please correct me. I'll be pinning that to the top of the comments so everybody can see that. If you're checking to see the accuracy of anything I've said, check the comments. I'll try to pin anything that is most relevant to correcting what I've said at the top. So now that I've mentioned some of the species that we could potentially see, I was thinking I could just kind of say what I'm hoping to see. We have a nice male kangaroo out there, 60 to 95 kilograms. That is the maximum. I just wanted to check this one as well. that could be a decent one, but the score estimate is a lot lower. So we're definitely going to try to take the one up here. We will take our shot at him, and then as we go to claim him, I'll talk about what species I'd like to see on the new map. And then after that, I'm probably going to say what I think is most likely. I don't know if you guys can see him against that rock, but now that he is stopped, he is down. So if I were to go down the list and pretty much just get my wish for all the species, definitely buffalo. I think they are very unique. The only species we have that's anything like them in the Hunter Classic right now is the bison, and they are quite different. So I'd definitely like to see buffalo. I think if we were to see wild boar, I'd like to see a model update, to be completely honest. I wouldn't mind wild boar in another reserve. We do only have them on one. But quite honestly, I'd like to see a bit of a model update if we're going to see them on another map. Crocodile, for sure. I think everybody wants to see crocodile on the new map. Personally, I've been kind of against them being added to the Rougarou Bayou map. But I think they could be really cool. I think they could present a unique species to hunt. And waterfowl, of course. A lot of people want waterfowl. I'm not opposed to waterfowl being added to any map. We've had the ducks and geese for... I think geese were released in like 2014, so it's been a while since we've seen new waterfowl, other than the new ducks, but it's kind of similar to the old ducks, so definitely wouldn't mind seeing some of them. For the deer, axis deer for sure. I think axis deer are really cool. They're quite unique themselves with their spots and the kind of uniform antlers on all of them. Sandbar deer as well would be really cool. We do have an 80.2 score for our kangaroo. I'll just kind of keep talking a bit as I get this trophy shot set up. Fallow deer. I would love to see fallow deer in this game. I'm curious to see what we'd end up with size-wise. Because, of course, Call of the Wild is not always the same to the Hunter Classic. But fallow deer are quite unique as well with the palmation on their, I think, antlers. I assume those are antlers and not just horns. But I actually don't know that for a fact. But I can only imagine those would be antlers that fallow deer have. Personally, I could do without red deer. We do have them on a couple of different maps. They're very cool, don't get me wrong, but we have them on a couple of different maps, and the more new species, the better in my opinion, just because we have a fair amount of species in the game now. Red deer, for me personally, I have well over 1,000 of them harvested, so in terms of hunter score, that doesn't help me at all, but we had them on a couple of different maps. I really don't think we need to see them again, but I would not really be all that upset if we have them because they are so just fun to hunt. The huge antlers they can have. They are quite nice. So what I think is most likely, I think we're going to see wild boar, almost for sure. We only have them on one map. That's why I expect to see them on a second map. They seem to fit into the environment quite well. So I would not be surprised at all to see wild boar. I do think we're going to see crocodile, to be completely honest. The community has asked for crocodile for so long. I really would be surprised if they end up not adding it. Maybe not on the release of the reserve, but I expect if they are not released with the reserve, I expect the community to ask for them to the point that they end up being released. I don't know about dingo. As I said, we do have kind of the concept with coyote, bobcat and stuff, so that's definitely a possibility. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing them at all. I can't seem to get my crosshairs lined up. I'm still a bit low level with the 6.5, but I definitely expect to see some species of waterfowl. Everybody likes hunting waterfowl. Waterfowl has been asked as being a new species on a couple of different maps now, so I would not be surprised to see them. I do think we're going to see at least one deer species, if not two. I think axis deer are fairly likely. Again, we have fairly similar models with some of the deer already, so it wouldn't be a huge undertaking, I don't think, to design axis deer or sandbar deer. I think sandbar deer might actually fit into the environment a bit better, but they're a bit more under the radar as a game species, it seems. So I think axis deer might be a bit more likely for that reason, but I actually would almost prefer sandbar deer, I think. They're a bit bigger body-wise. Their antlers can be fairly similar from what I've seen, but yeah, I think one or both of those two deer, and I think fallow deer are almost a given. As I said, we have them in Call of the Wild. as the animal concept. I don't think the models really would carry over, but that is a possibility. I don't really know how that works, the interaction between the two games, but yeah, those are the ones I would most expect to see. Between the 3 deer, if I could only pick 2, I would say axis deer and fallow deer. I really don't think we're going to see red deer, although as I said, if they ended up being added, I really wouldn't be that opposed to it. They are very nice looking. I would like to see a bit of a model update for them as well, but I don't really expect that because they're not quite as poor as the wild boar, in my opinion. The wild boar really should be a lot furrier than they are. I did not spot this kangaroo, but it may have been the one that we saw earlier. Yeah, it's very small. Bit of a long shot at 200 meters. But yeah, that is kind of the extent of what I've been able to see so far, just from looking some stuff up. Quite honestly, I was a bit disappointed when I found out it was going to be another Australian map, because honestly I was just hoping for a European map or another North American map, although I kind of knew it wasn't going to be another North American map. We've had 2 in a row. But after looking at the animal species we can potentially have, the environment, and the terrain, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what the finished product's going to be. And it's really difficult to say how far off it is until the release, because normally we kind of get the heads up that we're going to get a new reserve at some point, and then there's a kind of big reveal as to what the reserve is going to be, and then a bit later down the road we start seeing pictures of animals and the screenshots of the map itself. In this case, we kind of had there's going to be a new reserve, and then pretty much immediately we found out it's going to be a tropical Australian reserve. So very difficult to say how far off this reserve is. They could have potentially been working on it pretty much for over a year now. It's really difficult to say when they started on it, but hopefully they've been working on it for a while, and hopefully it's going to be a good finished product. We had a few issues with Timber Gold, the tracking and such, and if we get another really large map with a lot of species, as is definitely possible after looking at some of the species we could see on a tropical Australia map, it's very possible we could have end up with a lot of species on the map. It's definitely something that could happen. I hope they have been working on it for a while and kind of keep any tracking issues at bay, hopefully, since we've seen that in the past. It would not be really good for that to pop up again, but hopefully they've been working on it for a while and that won't happen. So hopefully you guys are as excited for the new reserve as I am. As I said earlier in the video, if you guys know that anything I said is incorrect, or if you have anything to add to what I've said, please leave it in the comments below. I'm definitely going to be reading for anything that I could have potentially said wrong, or anything that I missed while doing research. There's a reason the title of this video is not what to expect in the new reserve or anything like that, and that's because I'm not claiming to know anything about the new reserve. I just wanted to kind of start a conversation with you guys in the comments as to what we could potentially see. It's really tough to say how long it's going to be until the reserve comes out, so I wanted to just talk to you guys a bit about it, what we could potentially see, and maybe get some information out of you guys. Maybe some of you know a lot more about the area than I do. Hopefully some of you guys do, because I didn't do that much research about it, so I'm hoping you guys know a bit more than I do. Some of you guys anyway. I'm sure not all of you know much more about the area than I did before I did just a bit of research, but hopefully a good bit of this information is accurate. Hopefully you guys are a bit filled in as to what we could potentially see, and hopefully you guys are kind of hyped for it. As I said, it's really tough to say how far off it is, so if it's soon, that would be awesome, but thinking that it could be far off, it's just fun to kind of speculate, and that's all this is. Once again, I'm not saying that's what we're going to see in the reserve. I did kind of say my expectations, but there's a reason, as I said, this video is not titled like New Reserve Hype or anything like that. I'm not making this video for people that want to see the new reserve and what we could potentially have for it. I'm making this video because, well, for one, I kind of wanted to just talk about it, and also just to hunt around a bit and get to talk to you guys. Usually I would do that in an uncut video, but in this instance I really didn't get the opportunity to do so. They take so long to upload with my terrible internet. So this is kind of a video where I'm just talking a lot and not really paying as much attention to the hunt itself. But hopefully I was able to start a bit of a conversation with you guys. And as I said, I will be reading the comments for anything you guys say. Hopefully for the next couple of days. YouTube doesn't like to notify me about comments after a few days, but I'll try to check back on this video as often as possible to potentially see what you guys have to say regarding what's correct, what's incorrect, what I missed in talking about the new reserve, and hopefully we can see that new reserve maybe even in 2017, but that is a tough ask of the developers, I think, because we have no idea exactly when they started it, but it's definitely a possibility. But we'll grab this goat, and I will stop talking because I think I've been talking for a good amount of time now. 104 feral goat to end the video. I don't know how many harvests we had, but we shot 13 times with the Panther, and we have one harvest for the beginning of the video with the 223. So I think we had a fair amount of harvests as I was just talking along. So with that, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, and I'll see you in the next one.